Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the new Zelda Dungeon Mailbag. That's right, we're here again to answer your questions. And before we do it, leave more in the comments.
Yes.
Fill the mailbag up, fill these mailbags up, get these guys giving us the letters, and we'll answer your questions. Our first question comes from P-Dog, classic P-Dog.
Beautiful
And
name.
we've kind of touched on something similar before, but P-Dog asks, what's your favorite boss from the series, and how would you implement them into Breath of the Wild 2? Now, we've talked about the old 2D bosses that we'd like to see come back, but is there any, if we opened it up to the rest of the series, is there any, that you would also want to include that have been in other games? I want to say we need a Bongo Bongo-like. That's, my favorite type of boss. So I think we've been discussing that before,
enemies.
But whether it's the guy from, Wind Waker or whatever, I'd love to see another one of those.
I would have to put a lot of thought into it to decide my actual favorite in the series, but one that I'm always very fond of, which is one that originates from the first game, is Gleeok. I just love the multiple heads thing. That's such a cool. You can do so many fun things with that, and even in the one slightly more modern appearance we've seen of him, which is in Phantom Hourglass, right? That's a very creative boss fight, I think.
That's a really good
with the
one.
use of the grappling hook, yeah.
I think I would want something like a Helmosaur King. Is that that's what it's called, right?
There's Helmosaur, there's Gemasaur.
Yeah. Like something like that. Imagine sort of like a Talus, but it's like a dinosaur. Like how cool would that be?
You gotta climb on it and hit its weak points to break the armor off.
Yeah, and then you gotta jump off and you go into bullet time and you shoot it in the weak spot on its face. Oh man.
That actually does kind of remind me of some of my favorite bosses, which actually are funny enough, are in Spirit Tracks. I love the big, I think it's Skeldritch, the big tower boss, where it's basically just a big skull on different segments, and you have to launch the balls at it from across. There are some really creative boss fights that they utilize the dual screen and the touch mechanics for in those games.
That would be cool, riding around on the wild horses and having specific parts you gotta snipe to make it fall apart or something.
Yeah. Give us more Shadow of the Colossus, man. Give me Zelda Shadow of the Colossus.
Ganon, like Dark Beast Ganon, but fun.
But good.
But fun.
Yeah.
add some challenge in there, yeah.
They built a good base of an idea, and we could get something way cooler.
Definitely, yeah. So this one, this is sort of we're gonna be talking about it in our next tier list video a little bit, but Radiant Noir says, since Breath of the Wild filled so much wildlife in the game on the ground, do you think they'll take the same approach by inhabiting the skies and the sky islands with wildlife? And we sort of talked about that from in our tier list video of wanting them to bring back something like the Loft Wings or whatever, but also just, I think of course they'll probably have, other wildlife and types of animals up there that aren't rideable things too. That, I don't know. That seems like that would be a priority to them.
Yeah. I would something that's not just small birds,
Yeah.
I'd
I think
something
there at
interesting.
least will be small birds.
Yeah, we'll at least get that.
Maybe
that would be cool if they did
something.
Around the same level as being fleshed out as the animals on the surface. It would be cool if there were a bunch of different types of birds, types of animals in the sky.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just what are there could just be other unique things that aren't necessarily birds that live up there. Maybe they have a different way of getting around. I don't know.
Maybe a new sky race.
I'm kind
That'd be cool.
Thinking of enemies in the sky. Obviously flying enemies, we have Keese. I'm thinking Breath of the Wild. We have Keese, Wizrobes, technically. But what are those weird things in the storm in Skyward Sword?
Right,
I don't know what those are called.
Those
things,
are weird. Or give us like
They
a
seem to be like
dragons.
those like dragons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
like
for
evil
sure.
dragons.
There was like those automatons that it seemed like they showed in the trailer. Like it looked like they were like little robots,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. Also, if a direct comes out, like we're gonna be, you know, maybe way off on some of these answers, I should say, but we're gonna hope for the
We're
best.
recording this on
We'll
June 23rd. Let it be known.
Dating us.
and the tier video that's gonna come out. So if our opinions could be out of whack.
Who knows?
Jeff Spruyel. I don't. Maybe that's not as hard to pronounce as I'm making it. But do you think Nintendo would ever consider a crossover series of games with their intellectual properties? What would you want in something like that for Zelda? I think there was a long time ago. There was a video on our channel where we discussed it. I can't remember what series, but I think there's always fun things you could do. I think the most we'll usually see is probably along the lines of like how there's like Mario Kart and Smash, and then like Crypt of the Necrodancer, where it'll be like, you know, like give someone an indie game, you know, to make a Zelda game. But I don't know if we'll ever see, I don't know, like Zelda Mario or Metroid or something. I don't know.
I would love to see more indie game companies get a hold of Nintendo IPs, because personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Crypt of the Necrodancer, but that's just because I suck at rhythm games. I think the game is amazing. Like, it's so good. Cadence of Hyrule is just like, what? It's incredible. I would love to see more indie companies be able to do that. But yeah, as far as like crossing IPs, I don't know, maybe like a new Paper Mario game where there's like a Donkey Kong world or like something like that. I don't know if they'd ever throw the like big four IPs together, you know?
Yeah, you kind of stole my thing. That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say like a paper. I wouldn't honestly. I like Zelda as Zelda, and I like that they haven't, for negative connotations to this, but I like that they haven't sold out and started doing like Zelda Party and Zelda Kart and stuff like that. But if they were to do some sort of crossover or something like that, I think the most realistic and the most fun that I would want would be like some sort of Paper Mario thing. Whether it's just a Paper Zelda, where it takes that style and kind of does its own thing, or if it's literally like a Paper Mario crossover where like they venture into Hyrule and like the kingdoms back and forth, stuff like that. I think that's probably the most realistic and what I think would be the most fun for me.
Okay. Nintendo just tweeted about Pokemon Snap. My thought, what about a Zelda Snap?
Zelda Snap.
Zelda
That's
Snap.
what the Hyrule Compendium is, you know.
I guess so, huh?
That's true. That's true.
This is just, I don't know why this question makes me laugh, but
Okay.
James Russo asks, if you were in charge back in the day in naming the first Zelda game, would you go with The Legend of Zelda or try to come up with something else?
Well,
I don't even have an
know,
answer, really.
I do have an answer, and my answer is, honestly, I wish that they had kept the Japanese title. Because in
Hyrule
Japan,
Fantasy?
it's the Hyrule Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda. And if the series was called the Hyrule Fantasy or Hyrule Fantasy, like, that sounds so much cooler to me, honestly. Like, Legend of Zelda is iconic, but how many ridiculous debates have there been over, like, what is the Legend of Zelda? And why is it Zelda in the title and not Link, you know?
I agree, but also, like, people would be like, why did they call it Hyrule Fantasy when the game is on Koholint? Or, you know, like, people will be, people will find a way to be pedantic about
no matter what.
But I like both names, but I do think Hyrule Fantasy is pretty tight. That's a good name.
I would have called it, like, Elf Boy Strikes Again.
I would have called it Link's Big Day Out. Hyrule Historian asks, in Breath of the Wild 2, would you like to see the Yiga Clan factor into the story?
Oh, yeah.
And what would you like it to be? I think that'd be cool.
I love the idea of the Yiga. I think they're so cool.
I actually really liked the little extra bits of Yiga stuff that they had in Age of Calamity.
Me too.
I thought like the new characters they had, the new guy that you could like eventually play as, right? He was pretty
The
neat.
actual buff dude.
I don't know how far they will go with it, but I assume if it's like in the same world, it would make sense just to have more Yiga stuff, you know?
They're gonna exist no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they just suddenly disappeared because Ganon was defeated. I don't think that makes sense.
I really like the way they function, that like they're disguised as regular people, and I really like the Yiga Clan hideout and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as huge of how they implemented them into the story, and I also kind of feel like realistically I think they'll be in Breath of the Wild too, but I don't know how much more they can add that's gonna make them really cool in my eyes from a story standpoint.
Yeah.
But I definitely think they'll be there.
Yep. I think they already kind of did everything they can with the Yiga Clan in Age of Calamity. You know, like I can't see them expanding much on it, but they'll be there. There's no way they're just going to be gone.
You know, yeah, I'd like to see him try. I'd like him to see him do something.
I'd like to see Nintendo try.
Like, this one, I guess we already sort of talked about, but I want to give mention to Slim Cognito's question, which is,
Great.
do you ever think there'd ever be another spin-off like Link's crossbow training?
I hope so.
I mean, I think there's plenty of Zelda spin-offs, but are you saying like one exactly like that where you
I know exactly what I want.
Okay.
A Hateno Village farming sim. That's it. That's all I want.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
That's
cool.
Link isn't even in it.
especially one where you
It's
take
in-
care of a horse.
It's during the 100 years where Link is in the Shrine of Resurrection, and you're just some kid that lives in Hateno Village taking care of a farm. That's it. That's all I want.
There will be more spin-offs 100%.
Oh yeah.
Even going back to Nintendo Land, the Battle Quest minigame in that, like that
That's pretty
game,
fun.
that rules.
It
you know?
is so
And
fun.
Even Link's crossbow training, like I feel like it's a butt of many jokes, but that game rules. That
It
game's
does.
actually a lot of fun.
It totally does.
I have like a rapid fire segment here.
Go for
we
it.
could do. They're more
Let's
of
do
Corey asks, "Why is my hair so perfect?" We
Yeah,
know
right.
why. David Trimer says, "I went to see a car in Breath of the Wild too."
That would be kind of fun.
Go from a motorcycle to a car, that's
Yeah.
fine.
And then this is another one where it's kind of a galaxy brain question, so I don't really have an answer to it. Jeff again asks, "How different do you think the gaming world would be if Breath of the Wild, as it is today, came out in 1986? Let's also assume Nintendo could make the hardware to run it using 80s technology. In this scenario, the only video games people have experienced at home are 8-bit." I think it would kill a child if they
Half of the world's population
People
would
would
have been
lose
cleaned
their
out.
minds.
Id Newton 6, who says, "What, if any, Zelda game would you like to see a sequel to? And is there a game you think shouldn't get one?" I have an answer to shouldn't, and this is more of going back to when there were all the rumors about what Link's Awakening was going to be.
Mhm.
A lot of people were talking about like, "Oh, I don't want him to be a remake. I want it to be a new game. I want it to like revisit." But I actually I don't really like the idea of like going back to Koholint and doing a sequel to the game.
Mhm.
So while I would have just rather gotten like a new game or whatever, that's one that I actually like appreciated that they tried to just reimagine that same game for a new audience, or like,
Yeah.
For new people to try, and tried to like do justice to it instead of like, I think it would lessen the game a little bit if we went back to the Windfish's Dream or something like that,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That's kind of how I feel. I don't know how you feel, Nico, about Majora's Mask, but that's also how I feel. What I like about Majora's Mask, I think like I don't want another one.
I mean,
Even though
here's
it's like my favorite.
Obviously, I think my first thought was Majora's Mask. I want a sequel. I want more. But I think about it, and I'm like, no, it makes no sense. It wouldn't even. Like having a direct sequel, it's already a direct sequel. Like we don't need more. It's done. It closed the book. And as funny as this is, because it already has a sequel, I wish Wind Waker had a sequel that wasn't on the DS.
Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
a different sequel.
Yeah.
When that's like from a gameplay wise follows up on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Corey,
Yeah.
is there anything for you?
I think don't want a sequel, I'm kind of on the same page as you guys. Both of those, Link's Awakening and Majora's Mask, are pretty good answers. I think Link's Awakening, maybe they could work in... I don't think they should touch Koholint Island again. Or any sort of revisiting of it, but I think there could be some sort of spiritual...
sure.
Something like that they could
Link's
do again, that
Awakening
maybe is
type
even...
beat.
Yeah. Or even is in some way related, but like they keep the sacred stuff sacred. Majora's Mask, I think, is probably my big answer for like don't do a sequel, because that is one where it feels perfectly succinct,
Complete
with how much they have and the way it is. Like, that's great. You did it. We don't need to see Termina again. I think that would spoil some stuff.
Yeah. As much as I love Majora's Mask, I never want to see Termina in a video game ever again. I really don't.
For one that I do want to see a sequel to, I think there's probably a few. Maybe one that pops into my head is the Minish Cap. I think there's more room. Maybe if it's not like this directly follows up the events of that, maybe if it's separated by a good amount of time, I think there's enough they could do for a really cool new top-down Zelda game that brings back the Minish, brings back some of those elements, and reincorporates, I don't know, new design philosophies and new technology to make it even cooler.
That would be really fun.
So
I'd be down for that.
My number one answer is it could be a remake, it could be a spiritual sequel, or it could be the case we talked about of giving indie developer like their property and just let them mix it up, would be Adventure of Link.
I love
Metroidvanias.
probably Zelda 2. Yeah.
knew you were gonna say that.
I love Hollow Knight.
What if Team Cherry made
Obviously, it
Adventure
probably
of
would be
Link?
them.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It'd be so
I
cool.
feel like-
Actually, though,
I feel
Yeah,
like they
I
have
think-
better things to do, maybe, but
Who needs
I think you're
Silksong?
touching on something that like they completely could do, is like a Zelda Metroidvania. Like Zelda 2 already has a lot of those elements in there. Imagine something like Zelda 2, but the overworld exploration is a little bit more traditional Zelda, at least as we've come to know it, and the dungeons are like Metroidvania levels. That would be sick.
it's a great question. Great one to end it off with from our old pal, Newbite, who says, we know, or possibly think, I'm going to editorialize, Ganondorf is going to be in Breath of the Wild 2. Is there anything you'd like Nintendo to do with the character? I don't know. I haven't, like, I'm sure there's been lots of speculation of what could it be, but I don't know. Is there anything you really like need to see out of Ganondorf?
Yes. I want him to make me question if I'm the good guy. I really do. Because I love it when a villain feels like he's right. You know, like when it feels like the bad guy is doing it for like all the right reasons and like it totally makes sense, and you're like, why am I fighting against this? And then you realize it's because they're doing it in all the wrong ways. You know, I want that. I would love to get that out of a Ganondorf character. I mean, because then I'd sympathize with him a lot.
Funny enough, I think my answer is the exact opposite.
Really?
I don't want... That's something that people have kind of taken and ran with and kind of blown out of proportion in my mind, is the good guy Ganon thing. I don't want to see that. In fact, I want the opposite. I want this Ganondorf to be the most evil Ganondorf has ever been. The meanest, baddest, like doing really bad things where you're like, what a jerk, what a bad guy. That's what I want to see from this Ganondorf.
Cool. I think I just like the Wind Waker Ganondorf too much.
Yeah.
I would like to see a Ganon who is a complex gray character and is neither good nor bad. How about that?
I just want him to have washboard
You
abs.
got all
That's all I
full
care about.
spectrum of answers.
I don't know. I don't really have an answer. I don't think I personally don't care that much. I won't know until I see it. You know, I don't have like an idea. Like, cause I don't know. Maybe they do something with like the curse of like demise or whatever.
Well, if any of the fan art of rehydrated Ganon is even close to correct, then we're gonna do just fine.
I want him to be a big hunky babe.
Exactly. That's all I want.
As long, you know what, they can do whatever they want as long as it's good. That's really, I just want it to be good.
Yeah, it's true. Like I could see where either you're going, and it really just depends. There's a million ways to go about it, but the trick is, will they do it well?
I also want Easter eggs. Give us Easter eggs. Gosh dang it.
I want Ganondorf to say, "We live in a society where."
All with the caveat that some of our ideas or predictions or whatever may be totally blown out of the water if like a direct or something happens. So
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I guess I hope we're wrong. Or what if it comes out and like everything we said is announced? They're like
Breath of the Wild
Team
2.
Cherry was making.
That's why Silk Song is taking so long.
Yeah, that's
They've been working on Breath of the Wild.
Hyrule Farming Sim.
Yeah.
Catch us at the Zelda Dungeon Marathon. We'll be doing stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be playing games. We'll be
yeah.
tier ranking stuff. Leave a comment with whatever questions you want us to answer. That was great. We got so many that we got like a jam-packed episode this time around.
This is like twice as long as a normal mailbag. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep it up, peeps. Put those questions down there.
Yeah, we might just have to start splitting them up.
Maybe.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll see everybody next month. There was like,
Buddy.
Roar, roar.